A prisoner who had already been sentenced to death was asked about his last wish. But when he revealed it, a wave of shock spread through the entire prison. He said, "My last wish is to spend the final night of my life with a virgin girl who agrees to be with me of her own free will. Announce it in the mosque and see if there is any girl willing to become my bride." The police officers were stunned after hearing this. But did they fulfill the prisoner's wish? Where did the girl come from? And what happened on the night of the wedding that left everyone shaken to their core? This is a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. My name is Fariha Ansari, and I am a 40-year-old lady inspector. These 40 years of my life have been spent within courts, police stations, and prison walls. I have seen many criminals come and go. Some looked innocent, while others were heartless. But there was one prisoner who left a lasting mark on my heart. Prisoner No. 917 had put me in a strange dilemma. He didn't seem like an ordinary prisoner. There was a deep, unfathomable intensity in his eyes, as if he were lost in a distant world. I couldn't call him entirely innocent, nor could I label him as a deceiver. Whenever I looked at him, it felt as though he was drowning in profound thoughts. There was a peculiar calmness on his face, but that calmness was wrapped in an unknown sorrow. The thing that pained me the most was that he was only 19 years old. He hadn't even seen the world properly, and now he was about to leave it forever. He spoke very little, as if words had abandoned him, or perhaps he simply chose not to speak. Many times I wanted to ask him, "What crime did you commit to deserve death?" But the despair and helplessness on his face was so profound that my lips refused to utter the question. Even so, there was something about 917 that made me feel a strange sense of sympathy. It was as if an unanswered question was brewing deep inside me. But the prison laws were strict, forming emotional bonds with prisoners, or showing sympathy towards them was strictly forbidden. That day I received an order. In 2 days, Prisoner No. 917 will be executed. He is permitted to meet his father one last time. Reading those words sent an unexplainable unease through my heart. A deep anxiety took over me, a feeling that refused to go away. I knew that every prisoner sentenced to death was granted one final wish. It was the only right they were given before their execution, whether it was their favorite meal, a meeting with someone special, or any other last request. But what would 917's final wish be? Little did I know, his request would shock everyone. Prisoner No. 917, whose real name was Rehan, was meeting his mother today. The woman clung to her son, sobbing uncontrollably. Again and again she whispered, "My son, I am certain that Allah will save you from this punishment." Her words echoed in my ears. A mother's unshaken faith was beyond my comprehension. The sentence had been finalized, and no verdict was ever revoked in this prison. And yet, this woman firmly believed that her son was innocent, that some miracle would save him. That same day, I received an order. Ask Rehan about his final wish and allow him to meet his family for the last time. I assumed his request would be simple, perhaps to spend a little more time with his loved ones. After all, at such a moment, no prisoner asks for anything extraordinary. But I was wrong. His last wish was something so strange, so shocking, that I almost lost my balance upon hearing it. I approached him and, for the first time, struggled to find the right words to speak. After a few moments of silence, I finally asked with genuine sympathy, "Rehan, do you have any final wish? Tell me, and we will do everything possible to fulfill it." Rehan lifted his gaze and looked at me. His voice was low, almost emotionless. "I have one final wish." He paused, then continued, "But I want you to promise me that you will fulfill it." I assured him, "It is your right. Every prisoner on death row is granted their final wish. We will do everything we can to make it happen." I was surprised by how calmly he was discussing his last wish. There was no fear, no hesitation, just deep determination. With a gentle tone, I said, "Come, let's go." The ask for Assistant Superintendent of Police, himself will ask you about your final wish. I escorted Rehan to the ASP's office. The officer observed him closely before asking, "Son, what is your last wish?" I was astonished to see the ASP speaking to this prisoner with such kindness. That was not normal. Senior officers were never this gentle with prisoners, but perhaps he already knew the truth. The ASP knew the crime Rehan had committed and why he was sentenced to death. Many prisoners in this place had committed minor offenses yet received severe punishments, while the real criminals roamed free. Rehan took a deep breath and said, "My final wish is to get married. I want to experience marriage at least once in my life. I want to spend one day with my wife." A chilling silence filled the room. Everyone, including me, stared at each other in shock. The ASP remained silent for a moment, then seriously said, "Son, we can arrange a wedding, but who will marry you, knowing that the very next day you will be executed?" He paused before continuing, "You are a death row prisoner. You are also very young. Your family doesn't have the means to bribe someone into marrying you. And besides, you come from a poor background. No one is willing to marry into poverty, especially in this situation." He took a deep breath before adding, "Why waste your last wish on something impossible? Ask for something else. Food. A meeting with someone special, we can arrange anything for you. But marriage? That's not possible. No one will agree to marry a man sentenced to death." Rehan remained composed and replied calmly, "Asp Sahib, I have already told you my last wish is marriage. But don't worry, I will tell you a way to make it happen." For a moment, the SP's expression changed, as if he feared that Rehan might demand to marry a female prison officer. But what Rehan said next was even more shocking than that. "All I ask is that an announcement be made in the mosque." Rehan requested an announcement to be made in the mosque, stating, "Rehan Khan wishes to marry a woman who is willing to become his bride, but only for one day before his execution." As soon as these words left his mouth, a deep silence filled the room. Everyone exchanged shocked glances. The request was so bizarre that it was hard to believe. Rehan made us promise that if any woman accepted this condition, we would not stop her, and he would be allowed to spend the night with her. His calculated demand forced us to think deeply. The ASP remained silent for a few moments, then shrugged and said, "We are certain no woman will agree to this condition. Why would anyone ruin their life for a one-day marriage? What's the point of becoming a bride for just a day? Why would anyone invite disgrace upon their family for this?" But Rehan remained unfazed. In a calm voice, he said, "Just make the announcement. That is my last wish. If no one comes forward, I will not ask for anything else. You can proceed with my execution as planned." We had no choice but to give in. The mosque announcement echoed throughout the entire area. Rehan Khan, a prisoner scheduled for execution in 2 days, has requested that his last wish be to marry a woman who is willing to be his bride for just one day. If any woman agrees, she may step forward. Despite making the announcement, we were 100% sure that no one would come forward. Rehan came from a poor family, and we were certain no woman would agree to marry him under such conditions. To us, this whole request felt like a joke, a completely impossible scenario. But exactly 1 hour later, a guard rushed in, panting, and delivered shocking news. "There is a woman at the prison gate. She wants to marry Rehan Khan." The announcement had barely settled in the town's air when something unbelievable happened. A guard rushed in, panting, "A young woman is at the prison gate, and a Maulvi religious scholar is with her." This news left everyone stunned. The SP, Superintendent of Police, and I immediately stepped outside, only to see a young girl standing at the gate. She was around 17 to 18 years old, dressed in full bridal attire, adorned with traditional wedding jewelry and a heavily embroidered outfit. Beside her stood a Maulvi Sahib, holding an official Nikah register. The SP, still in disbelief, asked, "Who are you, Maulvi Sahib? And who is this girl?" The Maulvi responded with a calm yet serious tone. "This girl came to me and asked me to conduct her nikah." We were speechless. The Maulvi continued. I tried to convince her otherwise. I asked, "Why are you ruining your life, daughter?" But she was firm in her decision. Then, with a steady gaze, he revealed the most shocking truth. She says this is also her last wish, because she truly loves Rehan. A deafening silence filled the prison yard. None of us could believe that someone loved Rehan enough to sacrifice everything for him. The situation felt too bizarre, too unreal, yet we had no right to object. Our duty was simply to fulfill a prisoner's last wish. The wedding behind bars. The SP reluctantly agreed, and the Maulvi Sahib was escorted inside. Rehan was brought from his cell to the prison office, where the wedding ceremony began. With the Maulvi leading the nikah, the prison walls bore witness to the most unconventional and heart-wrenching union. When the nikah was completed, Rehan let out a soft smile, perhaps his first genuine smile in years. Then, turning to us, he said, "As promised, you will now send my bride to me. I just want to talk to her. I want to relive old memories, just for one day. After that, you may execute me. I have no regrets." But what happened that night was something no one expected. Rehan smiled, his voice calm yet unwavering. "I have found my love. That is enough for me." His words sent a chill down my spine. True love was indeed fearless and selfless. Or so I thought at that moment. But little did I know that this marriage held a secret so terrifying. It would shake us to the core. The SP nodded, signaling me to escort the girl into Rehan's prison cell. "Lock the door," he ordered. I obeyed, shutting the heavy iron door behind them. As I walked away, I assumed that within a few hours, the girl would grow restless and demand to leave. But as time passed, strange sounds began to echo from inside the cell, a whisper of fear. At first, it was just faint murmurs. Then it sounded like someone struggling with something, trying to unlock something. I felt a surge of suspicion. Was Rehan attempting to break out? But that was impossible. The cell door was heavy and locked with a massive iron padlock. I dismissed the thought and returned to my office. Yet, just as I was about to sit down, a horrifying scream tore through the silence of the prison. I jumped up and ran towards Rehan's cell, terror in the bride's eyes. When I peered inside, what I saw left me frozen in place. The bride, still draped in her wedding veil, stood trembling. Her breathing was erratic, her hands clutching her arms tightly, as if something had shaken her to her core. I stepped closer, my voice firm. "What happened?" She lifted her veil slightly, revealing a face drained of color. With a quivering voice, she whispered, "Take me out of here. I can't stay here. Not for another second." I frowned, confused. "But why?" I asked. "You just married him. Weren't you the one who insisted on this?" The girl staggered back, hugging herself as if trying to protect herself from something unseen. She refused to answer, her body shaking violently. Something had terrified her beyond reason. I unlocked the door. The moment the lock clicked, she darted out like a hunted animal. Without uttering a single word, she disappeared into the night. Left alone in the dark, I stood there, watching her flee. Slowly, I turned back toward the cell where Rehan still sat in the shadows. Something felt deeply wrong. I locked the door once again, and as I walked back to my office, one thought haunted me. What had she seen inside that cell? Morning arrived with a storm I never saw coming. The SP stormed into my office, his face dark with fury. "Where is prisoner No. 917? He barked. I blinked, confused. "He should be in his cell, sir." But the SP's face hardened. "Go check, now." A cold dread washed over me. My heart pounded as I hurried towards Rehan's cell. When I arrived, I called out. Rehan stepped forward. Silence. My breath hitched. My palms turned clammy. I pressed my face against the small iron window of the cell door, and what I saw stole the ground from under me. Inside, a figure lay motionless, facing the wall. I froze. Something was wrong. The ultimate deception. With shaking hands, I unlocked the door and rushed in. I grabbed the figure and turned it over. My blood ran cold. It was her, the girl who had arrived last night as a bride. She lay there unconscious, dressed in men's clothes. Rehan was gone. A web of lies. The SP arrived, his eyes widening in shock before rage overtook him. "What the hell is this?" he thundered. I couldn't answer. My mind raced. The truth hit me like a train. Rehan had played us all. He had switched places with the girl and walked out disguised as the bride right under our noses. My hands trembled. How had I not seen it? The SP's voice roared through the room. "Because of your incompetence, a death row prisoner has escaped." I stared at the unconscious girl. The weight of betrayal crushed me. Last night, I had thought she was the one in danger, but in reality, we were the fools all along. I had believed her. I had thought she was a girl madly in love, willing to sacrifice everything for Rehan. That the truth was far darker. Rehan had used her, and we had been blindly helping him all along. Now, the SP's fury filled the room. "Find Rehan immediately," he barked. His voice echoed off the walls, sending a chill down my spine. If we didn't catch him soon, we'd have no answers, only disgrace. The girl who knew too much. The girl sat before us, completely calm. No fear, no regret, just a haunting confidence. Then she spoke. "You did wrong to Rehan. He did not deserve a death sentence." Her words sent a surge of anger through me. "That's for time to decide," I shot back. She held my gaze, her voice steady. "He is innocent, and time will prove it." My hands clenched into fists. What was she hiding? How could she be so sure? A desperate hunt. The SP's jaw tightened. If we don't find him, how will we answer the higher authorities? His words made my stomach churn. Rehan had escaped hours ago, long before we realized it. By now, he could be anywhere. There was only one clue left. Her. The truth lies within. I turned to her, my voice cold but firm. "Tell me the truth. I have 2 questions." Her expression didn't change, but I knew. She held the key to everything. The girl Nazia finally spoke. "Rehan is not my real brother." Her words sent a shockwave through me. I narrowed my eyes. "Then why did you call him your brother? Why this entire act?" She hesitated, then sighed deeply. "Believe me, it's not what you think. A brother, a husband, a fugitive." I clenched my fists. "You both fooled us. Rehan has escaped, but we will find him. He won't escape his death sentence." Nazia didn't flinch. Instead, she looked right into my eyes and said something even more shocking. "He will come back." A chill ran down my spine. "What makes you so sure?" I demanded. She took a deep breath. "Because now we are married. He will never abandon me. He knows exactly where he needs to go, and where he doesn't." Her words made my head spin. How could she be so calm? The past unfolds. I crossed my arms. "Fine, convince me. Tell me the truth. But if I find any lies..." She interrupted, her voice steady. "You need to hear my whole story first. Then, maybe, your judgment will change." I leaned forward. "Go on." Nazia's eyes darkened as she began. "My name is Nazia. My elder sister was engaged to Rehan. He was always brave, fearless, never afraid of anything. And with that, the truth started to unfold." Nazia's voice trembled as she continued. "Rehan was my cousin, my father's uncle's son. My father trusted him deeply. which is why he arranged my elder sister's engagement with him. Over time, Rehan became like a part of our family. He often visited our house, and we never had any reason to doubt his presence. I remained silent, absorbing her words. One night, everything changed. A sudden visit. That evening, Rehan came over to meet my elder sister. My father was not home, and since Rehan was engaged to my sister, we saw nothing unusual in his visit. I went to the kitchen to make tea while they talked. Everything seemed normal until we heard a loud knock on the door. Natsia's face darkened as she recounted the moment. At first, I thought maybe Abu had returned unexpectedly, but when I peeked outside, my blood ran cold. 3 or 4 men stood at our doorstep. Their faces were terrifying, and their intentions were clear. This was no ordinary visit. A chill ran down my spine. They banged on the door and shouted, "Open the door, or we'll break it down." I panicked. My sister and I were alone. I pleaded with them. "Please go away. We are just 2 sisters at home." The threat intensifies. Natsia swallowed hard before continuing. One of them laughed cruelly and said, "We know there's a young man inside your house. Don't try to fool us." She paused, eyes distant as if reliving that nightmare. Rehan heard the commotion. He walked toward the door and signaled me to hide. I obeyed and rushed to my room, but I could hear everything from inside. I leaned in, gripping the edge of the desk. "And then?" I asked. Her next words sent shivers through me. Natsia's voice trembled as she revealed the painful truth. Those men tormented us daily. They knew we were alone, vulnerable. Every time Abu stepped out, they would appear outside our house, hurling insults, threats, and vile comments. But Rehan always managed to keep them at bay until one fateful night. A night of horror. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. That night changed everything. My sister was asleep in her room when suddenly, we heard a loud noise. Someone was breaking in. A man was trying to force his way through the window. At that very moment, Rehan happened to arrive. He saw it all with his own eyes. I held my breath, sensing the weight of what was coming next. Rehan couldn't stand by and watch. When those men tried to force their way in, a fight broke out, a brutal fight that changed our lives forever. She inhaled sharply, struggling to continue. In the chaos, my sister was killed. And in that same fight, Rehan did something that led to his death sentence. A cold silence filled the room. The unpunished crime. The real criminals? They were never caught. The powerful don't face justice in this world. Only the weak do. If we had money, if we had influence, things would have been different. But we were powerless. I could see the raw pain in her eyes. Rehan didn't murder an innocent man. He fought for his honor, for our dignity. He fought against monsters who thought they could do whatever they pleased. Tears spilled from her eyes as she uttered the final words. The truth is, we were never the criminals. The criminals were those men who shattered our lives and walked away free. A heavy silence followed. I had started this conversation believing one version of events, but now, everything felt different. And then, Natsia revealed something even more shocking. Rehan mother. She was the one who planned everything. She told me exactly what to do. My mind reeled. What did she mean? What plan? I leaned forward. What are you saying, Natsia? Natsia tearfully revealed that her family valued Rehan more than her. To save him, they sacrificed her. It was all planned. Rehan, indebted to a lawyer he once saved, sought his help. In court, the truth came out. Rehan was innocent and was honorably acquitted. His mother's words proved true. Allah won't let you be sentenced to death. Some stories fade, but some remain etched in memory forever. Do you think Rehan got justice? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more. Allah Hafiz.